While home ownership and having your own private piece of terra firma to call your own has been part of the American dream since the first settlers arrived in the early 1600s, the government owns much of the land from sea to shining sea. Government land, properties owned by states, municipalities, and the federal government, is used to protect and serve the citizens. In colonial times in America, landowners thought they had powerful control over what happened on their land. But even then, the government retained the right to limit use through regulations about the orientation of buildings, personal use that may cause a nuisance to neighbors, and unsafe building practices that impacted public safety and health. As a real estate professional, you may come across situations that involve the sale and acquisition of public land, and it is important to know some common building and land uses. Let's start at the local level. Common municipal buildings include public schools, community centers, libraries, and law enforcement centers for police. The most common land uses include city parks, streets, roadways, public boat ramps, and city-owned recreational places for hiking, biking, and sporting events, such as Little League ballparks, although some fields are donated by wealthy benefactors. States have similar holdings as local governments, but on a larger scale. As you can imagine, taming the Wild West during the 19th century was challenging. County courthouses were often the first permanent buildings in Texas counties. It is interesting to note that Texas has more historic courthouses still in use than any other state in the Union, 235, according to the Texas Historical Commission. These iconic buildings are an impressive collection of architectural delights with their ornate cupolas and towering brick fortress-like presence. Along with beautiful courthouses, you'll find modern facilities for both volunteer and paid emergency response teams, maintenance and storage facilities that house road equipment for icing highways during winter months, and keeping the public grounds well-groomed. Other government buildings include office complexes for employees that manage state financial affairs, social service agencies, and the Capitol complex, where legislators make new laws and modify existing regulations. There are also state parks and stream beds, navigable waterways, and public lakes created by dammed rivers. Roadways that begin and end within state boundaries normally fall under state control. Negotiating easements, or right-of-way contracts, for communications infrastructure and utility access along these roads often involves working with state agencies and private landowners. The most common buildings and land uses on the federal level include national parks, military bases, and federal government buildings. Federal government buildings may include structures and land for military training and education, legislative offices, social service centers, and some hospitals, like the Veterans Affairs, or VA, medical centers, outpatient treatment facilities, nursing homes, and post-service training and community outreach programs. The VA currently operates more than 150 medical centers and hundreds of other programs for veterans and active duty personnel. The reasons for government entities owning land vary. Government ownership usually falls under one of four categories. The first is serving the public interest. Government buildings allow access to services from healthcare to financial and legal assistance. Maintaining our national roadways and transportation infrastructure is imperative to serving the public, since our food travels on interstates, local highways, and by rail. Air cargo ensures rapid mail delivery. Here's something you may not know. Of the 35,000 United States post offices in the United States, 75% are privately owned and leased back to the USPS. Another reason government agencies purchase land or buildings is to advance urban renewal efforts that revitalize areas of blight or significant decline. The purpose of urban renewal is really twofold. Declining areas lower the economic potential for all residents, and severely blighted regions result in reduced tax revenues for local, state, and federal entities, which hinders service delivery to the public. Government agencies also buy land suitable for developing public housing communities and may buy some existing commercial or private homes that can be modified for public housing. The fourth category is conservation purposes. The federal government currently owns roughly 1/3 of the land in the United States. The majority, about 95%, is managed by 4 agencies: the Bureau of Land Management, the Forest Service, the National Park Service, and the Fish and Wildlife Service. Government ownership is intended to preserve public lands for public use, to enhance the quality of life and protect our natural resources. As a real estate agent or broker, it is essential to understand the role government entities play in the real estate marketplace. Local, state, and federal agencies own, lease, and manage land and buildings in every community in our nation. It is likely you will have opportunities to negotiate private and public transactions during your career.